Hello, my name is David Cyan, and I'm here today to present evidence supporting the critical need for increased funding for child and family counseling programs. Our focus is on the hard science, how childhood trauma fundamentally rewires the adult brain. The shown chronic stress in childhood is categorized as toxic stress. This stress attacks the body's central alarm system, known as the HPA axis. Looking at figure one, it shows us the HPA axis pathways. This system helps manage stress hormones, and toxic stress causes HPA axis dysregulation, meaning that the system breaks down, and this results in the persistent state of like high alert or hypervigilance in adulthood because the body is chronically producing either too much or sometimes too little cortisol. Objective evidence for this is seen in elevated central CRH levels that persist all the way into adulthood. Moving ahead of myself here too quickly. Um, Toxic stress alters the physical architecture of the developing brain. Looking at figure two, we see the three key regions that are impacted by toxic stress. The first being the amygdala, and in the amygdala, this is known as the fear center, which becomes overactive, leading to that quick, intense, and emotional reaction from an individual. Then we move over to the hippocampus, which is responsible for memory and context, and that often shrinks, making it harder for the individual to feel safe. And then, last but not least, is that prefrontal cortex, which is our control center, and it becomes impaired. And this deficit directly causes difficulty in three specific areas, which would begin with emotion regulation, impulse control, and decision making. And this goes on throughout life. These biological changes drive maladaptive adult behavior. The poor communication between the emotional amygdala and the regulatory PFC, that prefrontal cortex, leads to profound emotional dysregulation. Um, Trauma disrupts the brain's reward system, creating a strong established link between early adversity and that development of substance use disorder as an adult. Looking at figure three, the epigenetic diagram, it kind of helps us see all that. Finally, trauma leaves a mark on the genetic level or at the genetic level through epigenetics. Basically, this process turns genes on or off. Like, for example, the FKBP5 gene, which keeps the stress response system locked in a hypersensitive state for years. Um, the resulting biological injury creates a clear, measurable dose response relationship with devastating long term outcomes. We first see this in mental health. Preventing ACEs could reduce adult depression by up to 78%. Increased risk is observed for PTSD, substance use disorder, and suicide. When it comes down to the physical health, chronic stress leads to inflammation and disease. Preventing ACEs could reduce heart disease by up to 22%. Looking into workforce and education, the damaged prefrontal cortex leads to unstable work history and lower attainment due to impaired function. And then in family housing, difficulty with emotional control and trust contributes to family instability and higher poverty risk. So, in conclusion, childhood trauma is a biological injury that permanently alters the structure and function of the brain, creating that lifelong vulnerability. And therefore, funding accessible evidence-based counseling like trauma-focused CBT is not just a soft social service. It is a biological intervention that can help mitigate physical harm by promoting resilience and healthier HPA axis regulation. The cost of untreated trauma is massive to the public health system. Increasing funding for these programs for uninsured populations is critical evidence-based strategy to protect neurodevelopment and mitigate the biological and societal costs of trauma. So here's my reference page, and thank you for your time. And I hope that this presentation has provided you with more information into how childhood trauma rewires the adult brain and that need for those biological interventions that can help mitigate that physical harm and promote that resilience and a healthier HPA axis. That way we can further ensure that we are providing those services and helping society. Thank you again.